Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chengatai Victoria and today I'll be talking to you about new builds. I have recently bought one, as you may already know if you've subscribed to my channel. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe. But today I'm going to tell you about the good, the bad, the ugly about new builds as someone who's bought, lived in one and is here to tell the tale. If you see me looking down, it's because I've had to put Mr. upstairs because I tried having him here with me and he was just screaming when I was talking. So he's here in the camera and I'm keeping an eye on him because he likes to climb sofas, anything really, wardrobes. He's a climber now. So some of the negatives regarding new builds include dealing with dodgy developers. I didn't know this was a thing you had to do. I just thought, you know, maybe you're accredited and you're allowed to build the house, so what is your problem? Like, what are you going to do? What's the most harm you're going to do? But yeah, do your research because there are dodgy developers out there. And sometimes these developers cut costs because they want to make as much money as possible. And I do think this is possibly more with like bigger developers than like a more like smaller like luxury developer. Overall, I do think they all will find a way to cut costs and spend a little less but make a little bit more money. We had an issue with our heating in the house, and when I don't know what they're called, like the guy came to look at our boiler and stuff, he said that the pipes they used went from like a thick pipe to a very tiny pipe. The only reason they would have done that was to save costs, and the other thing was that we had a combination boiler with a huge pressurized water tank. I don't know what all of this means, but apparently it's an odd combination and they could have been purely because they wanted to cut costs, which, I mean, it makes sense. You want to cheap out or use cheap materials so that you can make as much money as possible. I'm not saying it applies for all, don't come and sue me, but that's what happened in our situation, and I'm very certain that this is not an unusual situation, and I'm sure that many other people who've bought new builds may have witnessed some things like that. What I've learned is that with a bigger developer, they will do the bare minimum to meet the requirements, like just to meet the standards. But anyway, I'm not sure. I think it's more common with like a chain developer rather than like a smaller developer. So another thing is that you may experience that you have loads of little issues that need to be resolved. But I think this can be a negative for both new builds and old builds, not necessarily just new builds. But with our house, we've noticed that, like, for example, when I open that living room door over there, you should watch my house tour if you haven't already so you can understand what I'm talking about. If I open that living room door there and this kitchen door will open by itself, which can be really creepy sometimes because you just hear a bang. When I open that door, this one will open, which is a small thing, but it's like, why is that happening? Like, but I do think that stuff like that, you can find little like character things happening in old builds too, but that's just something to be aware of. I think it is something that can be resolved. We just need to tell the developers to come and fix it. But yeah, that's a little negative thing. Another negative is that you may be living on a building site for a while. So when we bought the property, luckily we were one of the last ones to move in, and so it wasn't necessarily a building site as much. But when we were coming to view the property, some people had already moved in and there were tractors, there was mud everywhere. Like, I don't know how they were living like that, but yeah, I guess you got to do what you got to do. But I will insert a video now of what the front of our estate looks like, as long as it doesn't like reveal where we live too much. But as you can see from that little clip, they need to come collect their mess, and I'm really about to expose them as if my 300 subscribers are gonna do anything. But I feel like I just want to like insert name right here because they need to come finish what they started. Another negative about new builds is that you will have to pay maintenance charges. This child is really about to climb his wardrobe. These are charges. Basically, the council doesn't want to have to deal with having to look after the estate, and so they hire an independent company that will come. Independent company will be brought on to basically take care of the ground, so like if there were trees to be cut, that kind of thing. Yeah, they look after that, and so you pay additional costs on top of your mortgage, council tax, bills, everything else, just for the maintenance of the entire grounds. But the cheeky little thing is that maintenance charge goes up every year. We actually haven't started paying ours yet because we're having some discrepancies, and so until that's resolved, we said as a whole, the 16 houses here, we're not paying nothing. We're not paying anything. Lastly, another negative is that delays are very, very common. But I also think that if you're buying any other house, you may still experience delays. Sorry, he's run out of his room. The positives, because we're not going to just focus on the negatives. With a new build, included in the cost of the house or the price of the house, you can have influence on how you want things to look. This is a massive positive, in my opinion anyway, and you don't have to pay additional costs unless obviously you want like a jacuzzi. But for example, the carpets, we chose the carpets, we chose the flooring and tiles, etc, etc, and you don't have to pay additional costs for that, which is somewhat of a luxury in comparison to if you bought a older house for the same price. You'd have to pay additionally on top of that for the carpets, the tiles and everything else if you wanted to change it, which would incur such a massive cost. And as well, if you did want a jacuzzi, you could buy the jacuzzi and they'll fit it in for you. Like obviously if they haven't already put in like the bathtub or whatever. So if you wanted a jacuzzi bath instead of just a regular bathtub, then you could pay for the jacuzzi and they would fit it in for you for free. I mean, that's with our developers. But number two, a positive, is that you can negotiate the price. We actually managed to negotiate this house down from 400,000 to 350,000. Another positive is that it's just nice to know that no one has lived here before. Like, it's your own and it's not haunted, it's clean. If you're anything like me, I don't like sleeping in other people's houses. So I think that's why when we visited the like older houses, when we were like looking around, it kind of felt like I'm looking at someone else's house, which a lot of the times obviously you are, and it just didn't feel like my own. So if you're someone who doesn't like sleeping in other people's houses, then maybe a new build is for you. Another positive is that there's loads of government schemes at the moment to help you buy new build houses. So for example, the Help to Buy scheme, which I have talked about in another video. And lastly, another positive is that new builds can be more energy efficient. Energy costs may be a lot less. That is all for this video, and make sure to check out my video on Sunday. I'm starting the wedding series where I document the whole process from today to the wedding day in December, end of this year. Tuesdays we've got vlogs, and on Thursdays, as you know, it's a finance or house video. Bye. Bye.